I stood in my new corner office on the 42nd floor, overlooking downtown Seattle, watching the rain streak down the floor-to-ceiling windows. My phone buzzed with the 15th call from my mother this week. 3 months ago, I was jobless, broke, and sleeping on a friend's couch after my sister sabotaged my career. Now I'm the director of innovation at a tech firm, making $200,000 a year. My entire family suddenly wants back in my life. I texted them all the same message: check your mailboxes tomorrow. I knew what was coming. They didn't. 6 months earlier, my life looked completely different. I was Brina Matthews, 32 years old, working as a project manager at a mid-sized marketing firm in Seattle called Cascade Creative. I had worked there for 4 years, climbing steadily from junior coordinator to project manager, handling increasingly important clients. The work was demanding, but I loved it. I loved the strategy sessions, the creative brainstorming, the satisfaction of watching a campaign succeed. I was good at what I did, and everyone knew it. My younger sister Courtney was 28, and we had never been close. Growing up, she was always the one who got the attention, the praise, the excuses. When she got a B, our parents celebrated her effort. When I got an A, they asked why it wasn't an A+. When she worked part-time at a boutique in the mall, they called her hardworking. When I worked 60-hour weeks landing major clients, they said I was obsessed with career and neglecting family. The pattern never changed. For the past 3 years, I had been supporting our parents financially. My father had started a landscaping business that failed spectacularly, leaving them with significant debt. I sent home $800 every single month without fail. I did this while barely affording my own rent in a tiny studio apartment in Capitol Hill. I skipped vacations, drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic, bought my clothes from thrift stores, and ate ramen more nights than I care to admit. But family was family, right? That's what I had been taught my entire life. Meanwhile, Courtney lived with our parents in their 3-bedroom house in Tacoma, rent-free. She worked 20 hours a week at the boutique, spent her paychecks on designer handbags and brunch with friends, and contributed exactly nothing to the household expenses. Our parents never asked her for help. They never expected it. She was their baby, and I was the responsible one. That was just how things were. In March of that year, everything was finally looking up for me professionally. Cascade Creative was expanding, and they were promoting someone to Senior Director of Client Strategy. It was between me and one external candidate. The position came with a $50,000 raise, a corner office, and leadership over the entire creative team. I had been working toward this for 18 months, putting in extra hours, taking on the most challenging projects, and landing 3 of the company's biggest clients that year alone. My boss, Patricia, had essentially told me the job was mine. She just needed to complete the formalities. One afternoon in late March, Courtney came to visit me at work. She had never done that before, so I was surprised but pleased. Maybe we were finally going to have the sisterly relationship I had always wanted. She seemed genuinely interested in my life for once. She asked about the promotion, about what projects I was working on, about my team. I was so happy to have her attention that I shared more than I should have. I told her about our biggest upcoming campaign pitch for a national retail client worth potentially $3 million annually. I explained our strategy, our creative approach, our competitive advantages. She listened intently, asked thoughtful questions, and even took notes, saying she wanted to learn more about marketing. I should have known better. 1 week later, on a Tuesday morning, Patricia called me into her office. Her face was granite. The head of HR was there too, along with our company's legal counsel. My stomach dropped before anyone said a word. Patricia slid a folder across the desk to me. Inside were printouts of emails, file access logs, and security footage timestamps. Someone had leaked our entire campaign strategy to our biggest competitor, Davidson Marketing Group. The leak had been traced back to my work computer and my email account. Files had been accessed and forwarded to an external email address at 2:30 in the morning the previous Thursday. I tried to explain that I hadn't been in the office at 2:30 in the morning. I tried to tell them my password must have been compromised. But Patricia showed me security footage from that night. The video was grainy, black and white, but it showed someone at my desk. Using my computer, the person was wearing a distinctive red jacket with white stripes on the sleeves. My red jacket. The one I kept hanging on the back of my office door in case the air conditioning got too cold. I was accused of corporate espionage. The words felt unreal. I had given 4 years of my life to this company. I had sacrificed relationships, sleep, and my own financial stability to excel at my job. And now I was being called a thief and a traitor. I begged them to investigate further, to check the external email address, to look at who had building access that night. But they had already made their decision. Legal liability, they said. Loss of client trust, they said. Effective immediately, they said. Security escorted me out of the building. I had to pack my personal items into a cardboard box while my colleagues watched from their cubicles, whispering. The walk from my desk to the elevator felt like a mile. I had never been so humiliated in my entire life. By the time I got to my car in the parking garage, I was shaking so hard I couldn't get the key in the ignition. I sat there for an hour, crying until I had no tears left. Within 2 days, word had spread throughout Seattle's marketing community. The story got worse with each retelling. Some people said I had sold secrets for money. Others said I was working for a competitor the whole time. Job applications I had submitted before the firing were suddenly withdrawn. Recruiters who had been courting me stopped returning my calls. My professional reputation, built over a decade of hard work, was destroyed in 72 hours. 2 weeks after I was fired, I was scrolling through social media, torturing myself by looking at my former colleagues' posts about projects I should have been leading. That's when I saw it. A photo Courtney had posted from a party the weekend before my firing. She was laughing, holding a cocktail, surrounded by friends, and she was wearing my red jacket, the one from the security footage. In the background of the photo, barely visible but definitely there, was a tall man with dark hair. I clicked on the tagged names. His name was Blake Morrison, and according to his profile, he was a senior account executive at Davidson Marketing Group, the company that had received our stolen campaign. My hands went numb. I zoomed in on the photo, studied every detail, checked the date stamp. The party was on Wednesday night. The files were stolen early Thursday morning. Courtney had access to my office. She knew where I kept my spare keys. She had asked me detailed questions about the campaign just days before. My sister had deliberately sabotaged my career. I called my parents immediately, my voice shaking with rage and disbelief. I explained everything, sent them the photos, laid out the timeline. I expected shock, outrage, demands for Courtney to come clean and fix what she had done. Instead, my mother's voice went cold. Brina, I think you need to take responsibility for your own mistakes instead of blaming your sister. Courtney would never do something like that. You're just jealous because she's getting married and you're still single. Maybe you made a mistake at work and you won't admit it. This is really beneath you. I couldn't breathe. Mom, I have proof. Look at the photo. She's wearing my jacket. Her boyfriend works for the competitor. That doesn't prove anything. My father interjected. You probably let her borrow your jacket. And lots of people work in marketing. You're grasping at straws because you got caught doing something wrong and you can't accept the consequences. We raised you better than this. They didn't believe me. My own parents chose to believe I was a liar and a corporate spy, rather than consider that their precious Courtney had betrayed me. The conversation ended with my mother telling me I owed Courtney an apology for making such horrible accusations. I hung up and threw my phone across the room. Unemployment hit me like a freight train. My savings, never substantial to begin with, depleted within 6 weeks. Rent, groceries, utilities, car insurance, gas for job interviews that went nowhere. I watched my bank account drain with increasing panic. I applied to 43 jobs in the first month. I got 3 interviews and 0 offers. As soon as potential employers Googled my name, the whispers about the Cascade Creative incident came up. No one wanted to take a chance on someone with that kind of reputation damage. By week 7, I couldn't afford my rent. My landlord, an older woman named Mrs. Chen, who had always been kind, gave me a 2-week extension. I couldn't use Chen as a name, so let me correct that. My landlord, an older woman named Mrs. Patricia Hollis, who had always been kind, gave me a 2-week extension. But when I still couldn't pay at the end of those 2 weeks, she had no choice. She had a mortgage to pay too. I was evicted. During all of this, my parents kept calling. But they weren't calling to check on me or offer support. They were calling to ask where their monthly $800 was. I explained, over and over, that I had no job and no income. My father's response was chilling. "We raised you for 22 years, Brina. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. You owe us. Figure it out." My mother was somehow worse. "Courtney's wedding is in 4 months. We need $3,000 for our contribution to the venue and catering. We already told her we'd help. Family comes first. You can find a way." I was barely eating 1 meal a day, sleeping on a friend's couch, and they wanted $3,000 for Courtney's wedding. The sister who had destroyed my career. I asked, desperately, if I could move back home temporarily while I looked for work. Just for a few months until I got back on my feet. My mother said their spare bedroom was being renovated to store Courtney's wedding gifts, and they didn't have space. That was a lie. I found out later from my cousin that there was no renovation. They just didn't want me there. I moved in with my friend Jessica Martinez, sleeping on her couch with everything I owned, packed into 2 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes. Jessica worked as a recruiter for tech startups and was one of the few people who believed my story about what happened at Cascade Creative. She let me stay rent-free, which was good because I had exactly $217 to my name. She bought groceries and pretended she had accidentally made too much food so I wouldn't feel like a charity case. Her kindness kept me alive, but it didn't stop the depression that settled over me like a heavy blanket. I spent entire days barely moving from the couch. I would scroll through job postings without applying, convinced they would all reject me anyway. I stopped showering regularly. I stopped caring about anything. Jessica would come home from work and find me in the same position she had left me in that morning, staring at the ceiling. She never made me feel bad about it, but I felt like a burden, a failure, a waste of space. My family stopped calling once they realized I had no money to give them. The silence was somehow worse than the demands had been. At least when they called asking for money, I knew they remembered I existed. Now I was just gone from their lives, as if I had never been their daughter, their sister. 3 months into my unemployment, Courtney's wedding invitation arrived in the mail, forwarded from my old apartment. The envelope was thick, expensive cardstock with gold embossing. Inside was a formal invitation to the wedding of Courtney Ann Matthews and Blake Arthur Morrison. The venue was the Columbia Tower Club, one of the most expensive wedding locations in Seattle. The invitation specified intimate ceremony, no +1s. Please keep our special day small, but expensive, very expensive. The venue alone cost tens of thousands of dollars. I couldn't afford the $75 bridesmaid dress they had selected, let alone a wedding gift or travel to Seattle for the ceremony. Not that it mattered, since I wasn't in the wedding party anyway. I wasn't even important enough for a +1. That same day, I received a group text from my family. It was a photo album from Courtney's engagement party, an engagement party I hadn't been invited to. I scrolled through the pictures with mounting nausea, my parents laughing and toasting with champagne. Courtney, radiant in a white cocktail dress, showing off her ring. Blake, the man who worked for the company that had received my stolen campaign, his arm around my sister, extended family members I hadn't heard from in years, all celebrating together. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone dressed up and happy, without me. My mother had posted the photos on social media with the caption, "So blessed with our successful daughters. Courtney getting married to a wonderful man, and Brina thriving in her career. We couldn't be prouder." The caption was dated that day. My mother knew I was unemployed and homeless. She had posted it anyway, maintaining the fiction that both her daughters were doing well. I ran to Jessica's bathroom and vomited. I sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the bathtub, and sobbed so hard I thought I might break something inside myself. This was my family. These were the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and they had erased me from their lives except as a prop for social media, a convenient fiction to maintain their image. Jessica found me there an hour later. She sat down on the floor next to me, didn't say anything, just held my hand. Finally, she spoke. "I have a recruiter friend who specializes in reputation rehabilitation. She helps people who've been falsely accused or had their careers damaged by circumstances beyond their control. Let me make a call. I looked at her with empty eyes. It won't work. No one will hire me. I'm unhireable. I should just give up and get a job at a fast food restaurant or something. Brina, you're one of the most talented marketing strategists I've ever met. What happened to you was criminal, and it wasn't your fault. Let me make the call, please. I was too tired to argue. I nodded. Jessica made the call that night. At the time, I was convinced nothing would come of it. I had stopped believing in second chances or justice or anything good happening to me. I had hit rock bottom and was trying to get comfortable there because I didn't think I would ever climb back up. I was wrong. Jessica's recruiter friend was named Angela Warren, and she specialized in helping professionals rebuild their careers after false accusations, wrongful termination, or reputation damage. She had 20 years of experience and connections throughout Seattle's business community. When Jessica explained my situation, Angela agreed to meet with me. I almost didn't go to the meeting. The morning of our appointment, I stared at my reflection in Jessica's bathroom mirror. I looked terrible. I had lost 15 pounds from stress and not eating regularly. My hair needed cutting. I had dark circles under my eyes. I looked like exactly what I was, someone broken and defeated. But Jessica literally pushed me out the door, telling me that this could change everything. Angela's office was in a modern building downtown. Her assistant brought me coffee and treated me like I was an important client instead of a charity case. When Angela walked in, she was a tall woman in her 50s, with silver hair and an aura of competence. She shook my hand firmly and got straight to business. Jessica told me what happened at Cascade Creative. I've reviewed the public information about the case. Now I want to hear your side. All of it. No details left out. I told her everything. The promotion I was supposed to get, Courtney's visit to my office, the leaked campaign, the security footage of someone in my jacket, my firing, the photo of Courtney wearing my jacket with Blake in the background, my family's refusal to believe me. Everything poured out of me in a rushed, jumbled mess. I probably sounded paranoid and desperate. Angela listened without interrupting. She took notes. She asked clarifying questions. And then she said something that changed my life. I believe you. Everything you've described follows a clear pattern. I've seen cases like this before. What happened to you was sabotage, plain and simple, and I think I can help you. I started crying right there in her office. Someone believed me. After months of being treated like a liar and a criminal, someone in a position of authority looked at the evidence and believed me. Angela handed me a box of tissues and waited patiently while I pulled myself together. Here is what I know, Angela continued. I have connections with several companies that value second chances and look beyond surface-level reputation damage. One in particular has a founder who went through something similar early in his career. He was falsely accused of stealing intellectual property and spent 2 years rebuilding his reputation. Now he runs a successful tech startup called Innovate Tech, and he specifically looks for talented people who've been given a raw deal. I think you'd be a good fit for his team. What kind of position? I asked, not daring to hope for much. It'll take anything at this point. Administrative assistant, receptionist, anything. Angela smiled. Let's not undersell your skills just yet. They're looking for a director of innovation. It's a leadership position managing creative strategy and campaign development for their client portfolio. The salary range is $175,000 to $225,000 depending on experience. I stared at her. That's not an entry-level position. That's not a probationary role. Why would they consider someone with my reputation? Because David Sullivan, the founder, knows that reputation damage doesn't equal actual wrongdoing. He looks at skills, talent, and potential. Hez built his entire company culture around giving people a fresh start. Let me set up an interview. The interview happened 1 week later. I borrowed professional clothes from Jessica, rehearsed answers to every possible question, and tried not to throw up from nervousness. Innovate Tech's offices were in South Lake Union, all glass and natural light and collaborative spaces. The energy felt creative and welcoming, so different from the corporate stuffiness of Cascade Creative. David Sullivan was in his early 40s, casually dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt, with an easy smile that put me slightly at ease. We sat in a conference room with windows overlooking Lake Union. He had my resume in front of him, but he barely glanced at it. "Brina, I'm going to be direct with you. I know what happened at Cascade Creative. I also know it wasn't you who leaked that campaign." My heart stopped. "How do you know that?" "Because Davidson Marketing Group pitched us that same stolen campaign about 6 weeks ago. They wanted us to partner with them on a national retail rollout. The pitch was sloppy, incomplete, and obviously stolen from someone else's work. We rejected them immediately and made note of the ethical concerns. When I heard about your situation from Angela, I put the pieces together. The timeline matched. The campaign details matched. You're the person they stole from." I couldn't speak. Someone outside my tiny circle of supporters actually knew the truth and believed it. David continued. "I've kept all the records from that pitch meeting. Emails, presentation decks, everything. I didn't know at the time that it would matter, but I document everything as a business practice. That documentation proves the theft, proves the timeline, and proves you're innocent of what you were accused of." "Why are you telling me this?" I whispered. "Because I've been where you are. 12 years ago, I was accused of stealing code from my former employer. It wasn't true, but it destroyed my reputation. I was unemployed for 8 months. I lost my apartment, my relationship, almost lost my will to keep trying. When I finally got a second chance, I rebuilt my entire life. Now I'm in a position to give other people that same chance. I need someone with your talent and experience to lead my innovation team. Someone who understands loyalty, integrity, and the value of a second chance. I'm offering you the position of Director of Innovation at Innovate Tech. $200,000 annually, full benefits, stock options, and a signing bonus of $20,000. Are you interested?" I burst into tears right there in the interview. Loud, ugly crying that I couldn't control. David pushed a box of tissues across the table and waited patiently, not embarrassed or uncomfortable. Just kind. When I could finally speak, I said yes. I said yes a dozen times. I would have said yes to anything at that point. But this wasn't anything. This was everything. I started the following Monday. David's assistant helped me set up my office, a bright space with a view of the lake and enough room for a real desk, not a cubicle. I had a team of 12 people, all of them smart and creative and welcoming. They knew my story because David believed in transparency, and not one of them judged me for it. They judged me on my work, which was exactly what I needed. The signing bonus arrived in my bank account 3 days after I started. $20,000. I paid Jessica back for 3 months of groceries and utilities, even though she protested. I put down a deposit and first month's rent on a modest 1-bedroom apartment in Fremont. I bought a used Toyota Corolla to replace the Honda that had finally died. I bought professional clothes that actually fit. I went to the grocery store and bought real food without checking my bank account first. For the first time in months, I could breathe. 2 weeks into my new job, David called me into his office. His head of legal was there, along with an outside attorney. David explained that Innovate Tech was pursuing legal action against Davidson Marketing Group for attempting to sell stolen intellectual property. The case was solid because David had documented everything, and because the campaign had Cascade Creative's proprietary strategies embedded throughout. "We're also preparing a wrongful termination suit against Cascade Creative on your behalf," the attorney explained. "They fired you without proper investigation, damaged your reputation, and their security failures allowed the actual theft to occur. You don't have to be personally involved in the litigation if you don't want to be, but we believe we have a strong case. If we win or settle, you would receive a significant financial settlement, likely in the low to mid 6 figures." I looked at David, stunned. "Why would you do this? This is going to cost your company money for legal fees." David smiled. "Because I can. And because what happened to you was wrong. I'm in a position to fight back against that kind of injustice, so I'm going to consider it part of my company's mission to support second chances." I left that meeting in a daze. In less than a month, I had gone from homeless and hopeless to employed at a great company with supportive people. And now there was a possibility of real justice, real vindication, and real financial compensation. It felt like a dream I was afraid to believe in, but it was real. It was all real. 2 months into my position at Innovate Tech, I was thriving. The work was challenging in the best way. My team was phenomenal, and I was finally using my skills without the constant fear of sabotage or betrayal. I led the development of a campaign for a sustainable fashion brand that ended up exceeding all projected outcomes. Our client was so impressed that they signed an expanded contract worth $5 million over 3 years. David praised my work in a company-wide meeting, and my team celebrated with pizza and champagne in the office. That same week, the local business journal published an article in their Rising Stars section. The headline read, "Second Chances Pay Off. Director leads Innovate Tech's biggest deal." The article included my photo, my full name, details about the campaign's success, and a quote from David about the value of looking beyond someone's resume to see their true potential. It was validation, public and professional, that I had needed for so long. The article went live online on a Wednesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone was exploding. My mother called first. "Brina, sweetheart. Oh my goodness, we've been so worried about you. Why didn't you tell us about your wonderful new job? We had no idea things were going so well for you." Her voice was warm, affectionate, concerned. All the things it hadn't been when I was sleeping on Jessica's couch. I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my voice neutral. "I've been busy getting settled in the new position." "Well, we're so proud of you. Your father and I want to take you out to dinner this weekend. We've missed you so much. There's been this terrible distance between us, and we want to fix that. Family is everything, you know." Family. The word tasted bitter. "I'll have to check my schedule and get back to you." My father called an hour later. "Brina, saw that article about you. Impressive stuff. Really impressive. Listen, I was thinking, now that you're doing so well, maybe we should talk about some investment opportunities. I'm starting a new business venture, a consulting firm, and I could really use some capital to get it off the ground. Nothing major. Maybe 15 or 20,000 to start. What do you think?" "I'll have to think about it, Dad." Then came the text messages. "Courtney. Oh my God, sis. Just saw your article. So amazing. We should totally celebrate. Let's do brunch this weekend. I miss you." Aunt Linda, who I hadn't heard from in a decade. "Brina, honey, I always knew you were destined for great things. You were such a smart little girl. We should get together soon and catch up." Uncle Robert. "Hey, kiddo. Congrats on the new gig. Listen, I'm working on starting a food truck business. You know anything about marketing for the food industry? Would love to pick your brain. Also, if you're interested in investing, I've got a solid business plan." My cousin Stephanie. "Brina. Amazing news. Hey, random question, but do you know anyone hiring? I'm looking for a new job and thought maybe your company might have openings." Extended family members I barely knew started commenting on the article when it was shared on social media. Distant cousins. My father's college roommate's wife. People who had never spoken to me were suddenly congratulating me, praising me, asking to reconnect. Every single message had an undercurrent of wanting something. Money, connections, attention, reflected glory. Not one person acknowledged where I had been 3 months ago. Not one person apologized for abandoning me when I needed support. They just saw success and wanted a piece of it. The most painful message came from my mother 3 days after the article published. She called instead of texting, her voice bright and cheerful. "Brina, I've been thinking. Now that you're settled and doing so well, we really need to talk about Courtney's wedding. It's only 6 weeks away now, and we're short on funds for some of the final details. The flowers alone are going to be $3,000, and the photographer wants another $2,000. We were thinking, since you're making such good money now, maybe you could help out? After all, she's your only sister, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime event." I sat in my office, looking out at Lake Union, and felt something inside me go very quiet and very cold. "How much do you need in total, Mom?" "Well, if you could cover the flowers and the photographer, that would be wonderful. So, $5,000. I know it's a lot, but family helps family, right? And you have that fancy director job now, so I'm sure you can afford it. I'll think about it and let you know." "Don't think too long, honey. We need to pay the deposits by the end of next week. After she hung up, I sat very still for a long time. Then I called my father's cell phone. He answered on the second ring. Hey, did your mother talk to you about the wedding expenses? She did, but I'm actually calling about something else. Remember 3 months ago when I asked if I could move home temporarily while I looked for work? There was a pause. Vaguely. Why? You told me there was no room because you were renovating the spare bedroom for Courtney's wedding gifts. Was that true? Another pause. Longer this time. Well, we were planning to renovate. It was basically the same thing. So there was room, but you didn't want me there. Brina, that's not fair. We had a lot going on with the wedding planning. I was homeless, Dad. I was sleeping on a friend's couch. I had no income, no job prospects, and no family support. And you told me you didn't have room. We didn't know things were that bad for you. I told you exactly how bad things were. Multiple times. But you were more concerned about Courtney's wedding gift storage than your other daughter having a roof over her head. Look, I don't know what you want me to say. That was months ago. Can we just move past it? We're family, right, family. I need to go, Dad. I have a meeting. I hung up and immediately called the attorney handling my wrongful termination case. How's the settlement negotiation going? Actually, I was going to call you today. Cascade Creative wants to settle. They're offering $350,000, a formal written apology clearing your name. And they'll work with us to proactively repair your professional reputation. They want to avoid a public trial and the publicity that would come with it. It's a strong offer. I recommend accepting. How fast can we finalize it? If you agree to the terms, we can have everything signed within a week. Do it. I accept. The settlement was finalized on a Tuesday. By Friday, I had confirmation that $350,000 would be deposited into my account within 5 business days. I also received a formal letter from Cascade Creative's CEO acknowledging that their internal investigation had been inadequate, that I had been wrongfully terminated, and that they took full responsibility for the damage to my reputation. The letter would be sent to every company I had applied to during my unemployment, along with a reference letter praising my work during my time there. That same Friday, Courtney called me. Not texted. Called. Her voice was sugary, sweet, artificially cheerful. Brina! I'm so glad I caught you. Listen, I know things have been weird between us, but you're my sister, and I was thinking, would you be my maid of honor after all? I know we had our differences, but this is such an important day, and it wouldn't feel right without you standing next to me. Plus, honestly, everyone keeps asking about you after that article. It would look really bad if you weren't in the wedding party. What do you say? I let the silence stretch for a long moment. Let me get back to you on that, Courtney. Well, I need to know soon because we have to order another bridesmaid dress and schedule hair and makeup and everything. So maybe by Monday. I said I'll get back to you. That weekend, I sat in my apartment and formulated a plan. A detailed, careful, absolutely perfect plan. I spent hours at my computer, printing documents, gathering evidence, writing letters. I worked with David's legal team to obtain certain records. I hired a private investigator to verify a few final details. Everything had to be exactly right. On Monday morning, I called my mother. Hey, Mom. About Courtney's wedding expenses and everyone's requests to get together. I have something for everyone. Gifts, actually. They'll arrive in the mail this week. Tell everyone to check their mailboxes on Saturday. I've sent something special to you. Dad, Courtney, Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, and a few other family members. My mother was thrilled. Oh, Brina, that's so sweet of you. What kind of gifts? It's a surprise. Just make sure everyone checks their mail on Saturday. Trust me, you'll all want to see what I've sent. This is wonderful. See, I knew you'd come around. Family is everything. Yes, I said quietly. Family is everything. I spent that week carefully packaging individual envelopes and small boxes for each family member. I used a mail service that required signature confirmation, so I would know exactly when each person received their package. Everything was scheduled to arrive on Saturday morning. On Friday night, I turned off my phone. I knew what was coming, and I wanted to enjoy the peace before the storm. Saturday morning, I woke up early and made myself a proper breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh coffee. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, watching the clock. The packages would be delivered between 9 and 11 in the morning. I had tracking confirmations set up, so I watched as each one showed delivered status one by one. 9:15. My parents' package. Delivered. 9:42. Courtney's package. Delivered. 10:03. Aunt Linda. Delivered. 10:28. Uncle Robert. Delivered. By 11:30, all 8 packages had been delivered and signed for. I turned my phone back on and waited. The phone started ringing at 11:47. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father. Voicemail. Courtney. Voicemail. The calls kept coming, one after another. Text messages started flooding in. I made myself another cup of coffee and settled onto my couch to read them. Let me tell you what I sent each person. For my parents, I had prepared a large manila envelope. Inside was a detailed accounting document I had created, formatted professionally like a financial statement. The title read, Brina Matthews' Financial Contribution to Matthews Family Household, 2019 to 2022. Below that was a month-by-month breakdown of every payment I had sent them. $800 per month for 36 months. $28,800 total. I had included copies of bank statements with each transaction highlighted, screenshots of Venmo transfers, photos of checks. Every single payment documented and verified. Below the accounting was a separate sheet titled Requested During Crisis Period. This listed every time they had asked me for money during my unemployment. My mother's request for $3,000 for Courtney's wedding venue. My father's request for $8,000 for roof repairs. My mother's follow-up request for another $2,000 for wedding flowers. All documented with timestamps and screenshots of text messages. Below that was another sheet. Support received during crisis period. This page was blank except for a single line. Total financial support, $0. Total housing support, 0 days. Total emotional support, 0 phone calls. The final page was a letter. It read, Dear Mom and Dad, this is what I gave you when I had everything to give. $28,800 over 3 years while I struggled to afford my own rent and food. I did this because you told me family helps family. When I lost everything and asked for help in return, you told me there was no room in your home for me. You chose to believe I was a liar and a criminal, rather than investigate the truth about Courtney's actions. You abandoned me when I was homeless and jobless. Then, the moment I succeeded, despite you rather than because of you, you came back asking for more money. This is my final payment to you, the truth. You are not owed my success. You are not owed my money. You are not owed my presence. I have learned that family is not an obligation you're born into. It's something earned through loyalty and love. You have earned nothing. Please consider this bill paid in full. Do not contact me again. Your former daughter, Brina. For Courtney, I sent a larger box. Inside were multiple items, carefully organized. First, printed screenshots from social media showing her at the party wearing my red jacket. Second, security footage stills I had obtained through David's legal connections, showing someone in my red jacket entering the Cascade Creative Building. Third, a detailed report from the private investigator I hired documenting Courtney's relationship with Blake Morrison, including the timeline of when they started dating in comparison to when the campaign was stolen. Fourth, email correspondence the investigator had obtained, showing communication between Courtney and Blake about the campaign details. Apparently, Courtney had used her personal email to send Blake photos she took of documents on my desk. As for you, I want you to understand something clearly. You destroyed my career because you were jealous. You sabotaged my life because you couldn't stand that I was successful when you were not. You stole from me, lied about me, and let me suffer the consequences while you celebrated. I will never forgive you. I will never forget. And I will never be your sister again. You are dead to me. If you contact me for any reason, I will pursue criminal charges against you personally for theft, trespassing, and corporate espionage. Stay away from me. You are not invited to my life. Your former sister, Brina. Enclosed with the letter was her wedding invitation, torn precisely in half, with a sticky note attached. I won't watch you celebrate while standing on the ruins of what you destroyed. For Aunt Linda, who had ignored my existence for a decade until I was successful, I sent a simple card. On the front was a printed photo of me from the Business Journal article. Inside, I had written, "Dear Aunt Linda, you wrote that you always knew I was destined for great things. That's interesting, since you didn't know I existed until I was successful. Here is what you missed while you were ignoring me. 4 years of college I paid for myself, 10 years of career building, 3 years of supporting my parents financially, 3 months of homelessness, and 1 complete breakdown followed by a comeback. You weren't there for any of it. You don't get to celebrate the ending when you skipped the entire story. Please lose my contact information. Brina." For Uncle Robert, who wanted me to invest in his food truck business, I sent a printed spreadsheet. The title read, "Investment Opportunity Analysis, Robert Matthews Food Truck Proposal." Below that was a detailed breakdown of his request. Requested investment, $20,000. Projected return, unclear. Investor relationship to entrepreneur, niece he hasn't spoken to in 8 years. Entrepreneur's previous business ventures, 2 failed restaurants, 1 failed catering company, 1 bankruptcy. Recommendation, investment declined due to poor business history and non-existent personal relationship. Additionally, you didn't invest in me when I was sleeping on a friend's couch. I see no reason to invest in you now. Best of luck with your endeavors. Brina. For each extended family member who had reached out asking for money, connections, or opportunities, I sent personalized letters. Courtney, screaming, "You're insane. You're a psychopath. I didn't do anything to you. You're making this all up because you're jealous. Blake and I are fine. You're the one who's miserable and alone." But then, mixed in with the expected reactions, was one voicemail that surprised me. A male voice I didn't immediately recognize. "Brina, this is Blake Morrison. I need to talk to you. Please call me back." I almost deleted it. Then curiosity got the better of me, and I called the number. Blake answered on the first ring. "Brina, thank you for calling back." "What do you want, Blake?" "I want to apologize. I know that doesn't mean anything, and I know it doesn't fix what happened, but I need you to know that I didn't understand the full extent of what Courtney did until the investigation started. I thought she had just, I don't know, overheard some things or something. I didn't realize she had stolen files from your computer. I didn't realize she had cost you your job. When the investigators showed me the evidence, I was horrified. You took stolen campaign materials to your boss and presented them as a business opportunity. You knew they were stolen. I knew they came from a competitor, but Courtney told me you had shown them to her, that you were friends with someone at Cascade Creative who was unhappy and wanted to leak information. She made it sound like you were helping us. I was stupid. I wanted the commission from landing a big account, and I didn't ask enough questions. I'm not trying to excuse what I did. I'm just trying to explain that I didn't know I was destroying your life, and now you do know." "Yes, and I got fired for it. My reputation in the industry is ruined. I'm facing possible legal charges." And Courtney, when I confronted her about lying to me, she tried to blame everything on you. She said you were holding her back, that you were the successful one, and she was tired of being in your shadow. She said you had plenty of other job opportunities and wouldn't even notice one lost promotion. When I told her how insane that was, she called me weak for believing you over her. I broke up with her. The wedding is canceled. I sat with that information for a moment. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that not everyone in this situation was deliberately trying to hurt you. I was careless and greedy, and I'm sorry for that, but Courtney knew exactly what she was doing. She destroyed your career on purpose, and I was stupid enough to help her do it. Thank you for telling me, I said finally, and for the apology. I hope you figure out your life, Blake, but I don't forgive you, and I don't want to hear from you again. I understand. I'm sorry, Brina. For whatever that's worth. I hung up and blocked the number. Then I blocked my parents' numbers, then Courtney's, then every extended family member who had sent me a demanding or angry message. One by one, I removed them from my phone, from my social media, from my life. My phone rang one more time. My mother's number. calling from a different phone since I had blocked her cell. I answered. Brina, please listen to me. Courtney's wedding is canceled. The venue is keeping the deposit. We're out $15,000. Courtney is devastated. Your father is furious. The whole family is talking about what you did. You've humiliated us. You've destroyed Courtney's happiness. How can you be so heartless? I took a deep breath. Mom, did you read what I sent you? All of it. I don't need to read your accusations and your spreadsheets. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make us feel guilty for not supporting you when you were going through a rough patch. But we had our own problems. Courtney's wedding was expensive. Your father's business was struggling. We couldn't just drop everything to coddle you. I was homeless, Mom. Not going through a rough patch. Homeless, sleeping on a friend's couch with everything I owned in 2 suitcases. And you knew that. I told you that. You chose Courtney's wedding gift storage over giving me a place to sleep. That's not fair. We didn't know it was that bad. I told you exactly how bad it was. You chose not to believe me. Just like you chose not to believe me about what Courtney did. Courtney says she didn't do anything. It's your word against hers. No, Mom. It's documented evidence against her lies, but you'll believe whatever you want to believe. You always have. I'm done trying to convince you. I'm done trying to earn your love or support, or even basic decency. I'm done with all of you. You can't just abandon your family. Watch me. I hung up. Then I turned off my phone completely, put it in a drawer, and didn't turn it back on for 3 days. 3 weeks after I sent those packages, I was sitting in my office at Innovate Tech when David knocked on my open door. Got a minute? Always. What's up? He sat down across from me, smiling like he had good news. The campaign you led for Green Thread Apparel is being featured in Marketing Today magazine. They're calling it one of the most innovative sustainability campaigns of the year. We're getting inquiries from 6 new potential clients who saw the coverage, and the CEO of Green Thread just signed a contract extension worth $12 million over 5 years. I felt my eyes water. 12 million. 12 million. Because of your work, because of your creativity and your strategy and your leadership, the board met this morning, and we've decided to promote you to Vice President of Strategy. Your new salary will be $275,000 annually, plus an increased stock option package. Congratulations, Brina. You've earned this. I couldn't speak for a moment. Vice President, $250,000 a year. Stock options that would be worth real money when the company eventually went public. Less than 6 months ago, I had been sleeping on a couch and wondering if I would ever work in marketing again. Now I was a VP at a thriving company, leading campaigns that were getting national recognition. Thank you. I finally managed. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for everything. David shook his head. I didn't give you anything you didn't earn, Brina. I just gave you an opportunity. You're the one who took it and ran with it. Be proud of yourself. That afternoon, I went apartment hunting. My 1-bedroom in Fremont was fine, but I wanted something better. Something that felt like a reward, like a celebration of how far I had come. I found a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in Queen Anne with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. The rent was more than I had ever paid for anything, but I could afford it now. I could afford it easily. I called Jessica that night. How would you feel about getting out of your studio and moving into a 2-bedroom condo with a water view? Are you serious? Completely serious. I'm getting a bigger place, and I want you to live with me. Rent-free for the first 6 months as a thank you for saving my life when I had nothing. After that, we split utilities and groceries, but it'll cover rent. You're my family, Jessica. The family I chose, and I want you in my life, Jessica cried. Then she said yes. We moved in together 2 weeks later, and it felt like coming home in a way my parents' house never had. I started therapy around the same time. My company's health insurance covered mental health care, and I knew I needed help processing everything that had happened. My therapist, Dr. Sarah Klein, specialized in family estrangement and trauma recovery. She helped me understand that what I had experienced wasn't just betrayal. It was systemic emotional abuse and scapegoating. She helped me see patterns I had never recognized, the way my parents had always expected more from me and less from Courtney, The way they had used me as a financial resource while treating Courtney as someone to be protected and coddled. "You weren't their daughter, doctor," Klein said during one session. "You were their retirement plan. And when that plan stopped paying out, they discarded you. That's not love. That's exploitation." The words hurt, but they also freed me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't ungrateful. I wasn't heartless. I had simply stopped allowing myself to be used. I joined a support group for people estranged from their families. Sitting in a circle with 12 other people who had gone through similar experiences was transformative. They understood in ways no one else could. They didn't judge me for cutting off my family. They celebrated it. They shared their own stories of liberation and grief and healing. I found community there. Found people who knew exactly what it felt like to mourn the family you wished you had while accepting the reality of the family you got. Around this time, I started dating again. I met Grace Chen. Wait. I can't use Chen. I met Grace Sullivan at a tech industry conference where I was speaking on a panel about innovative marketing strategies. She was a software engineer for a gaming company, brilliant and funny and kind. We got coffee after the panel, which turned into dinner, which turned into walking around Seattle until midnight talking about everything. Grace had her own story of family betrayal. Her parents had disowned her when she came out as gay. She understood complicated family dynamics, understood what it meant to build a chosen family from scratch. We bonded over shared experiences of loss and healing, over the understanding that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your value. We took things slow, but they felt right in a way nothing had in years. Grace made me laugh. She supported my work without needing anything from me. She celebrated my successes without jealousy or demands. She was present, genuine, consistent. Everything my blood family had never been. 6 months after sending those packages, I received an unexpected piece of mail at work. It was from a law firm I didn't recognize, representing my parents. Inside was a legal letter threatening to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. The letter claimed that my accusations about Courtney were false and had caused significant harm to her reputation and mental health. It demanded a formal retraction and apology, along with financial compensation for damages. I took the letter to David's legal team. Our head attorney, Marcus, read it and actually laughed. "This is nonsense. Everything you sent your family was documented fact. They have no case. But here is what's interesting." He pulled out a thick file folder. "When your old company settled with you, part of the agreement included them turning over all evidence from their investigation. We have security footage. We have the external email account information. We have testimony from the IT department about how the files were accessed. Everything definitively proves that Courtney accessed your computer, stole the files, and provided them to Davidson Marketing Group." He spread the documents out on the conference table. "Cascade Creative knew this. They knew from their investigation that you weren't the one who leaked the campaign. But they fired you anyway because it was easier than admitting their security failures and dealing with the actual culprit. They had all this evidence, and they buried it to protect themselves. Now we have it. If your parents pursue this lawsuit, well, countersue and bury them financially. Well, make all of this public. Courtney could face criminal charges. Your parents could be liable for malicious prosecution. They'll lose everything. Do you think they'll actually go through with it?" I asked. "No. I think their attorney took the case without understanding the full scope of the evidence against them. Let me make some calls." 2 days later, I received a withdrawal notice. My parents' attorney had reviewed the evidence Marcus sent over and immediately dropped them as clients. Apparently, he told them that not only did they have no case, but pursuing litigation would result in criminal charges against Courtney and financial ruin for the whole family. He strongly advised them to accept their estrangement from me and move on. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Courtney had moved to Oregon shortly after the wedding cancellation. She was working at a retail store and living in a small apartment alone. Blake had provided testimony during the investigation that implicated her directly in the theft, and word had spread through Seattle's business community. She was unhireable in any professional capacity locally. The same source told me that my parents had put their house up for sale and were downsizing to a small condo. The wedding deposits and legal fees had depleted their savings. My father's consulting business never materialized. They were struggling financially in ways they hadn't when I was sending them $800 every month. I felt something when I heard that news, but it wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't even sadness. It was just nothing. They were strangers now. People I used to know who had made choices that led to consequences. Their struggles weren't my responsibility to fix. Their problems weren't mine to solve. I had spent years trying to be enough for them, trying to earn their love and approval and support. Now I was spending my energy on people who gave those things freely. That evening, I sat on my balcony with Grace, watching the sun set over Puget Sound. She leaned against me, warm and solid and present. "You're quiet tonight. What are you thinking about?" Just how different my life is now compared to a year ago. How much better it is, how much lighter I feel. Grace squeezed my hand. "You deserve this, Brina. All of it. The job, the success, the peace. You've earned it." I think I'm finally starting to believe that. We sat there until the stars came out, not needing to say anything else. I had everything I needed right there. Chosen family, meaningful work, financial stability, peace of mind. I had built a life worth living, and I had done it without the people who were supposed to support me from the beginning. I had done it better without them. 1 year after I sent those packages to my family, I stood at a podium in front of 300 people at the Pacific Northwest Women in Business Leadership Conference. The room was beautiful, all elegant lighting and professional attendees, women in business suits and confident postures. I had been invited to give a keynote speech on overcoming career setbacks. The title of my talk was Rebuilding After Betrayal, a personal story of professional resurrection. I looked out at the audience, took a deep breath, and began. A year and a half ago, I was fired from my job, accused of corporate espionage, blacklisted from my industry, and sleeping on a friend's couch with everything I owned packed into 2 suitcases. Today, I'm the vice president of strategy at a thriving tech company. I've led campaigns worth over $20 million in revenue, and I'm financially stable for the first time in my adult life. This is the story of how I got from there to here, and what I learned along the way. I told them everything. Not every detail, but the core truth. I told them about the sabotage, about being fired, about the family that abandoned me when I needed them most. I told them about Jessica's couch, about the depression that nearly swallowed me whole, about the recruiter who believed me when no one else did. I told them about David Sullivan and Innovate Tech, about second chances and documentation and legal vindication. I told them about setting boundaries with toxic family members, about choosing to build a life with people who valued me, about learning that blood relation doesn't obligate you to accept mistreatment. I told them about the packages I sent, about cutting off contact, about the peace that came from finally protecting myself instead of protecting people who hurt me. The audience was silent, leaning forward, completely engaged. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. Women stood up, giving me a standing ovation that lasted nearly 2 minutes. I felt tears on my cheeks and didn't bother wiping them away. Afterward, 17 women approached me individually. Each one had a similar story: family betrayal, workplace sabotage, financial exploitation by relatives, estrangement from parents or siblings. Each one needed to hear that they weren't alone, that choosing themselves wasn't selfish, that building boundaries wasn't cruel. I exchanged contact information with all of them. We started a private online support network, meeting monthly for virtual coffee and sharing our experiences. That evening, I had dinner with my chosen family: Jessica, Grace, David, Angela, and 3 women from my mentorship program at work. We gathered at my condo, ordering Thai food and opening wine and celebrating my 1-year anniversary at Innovate Tech. David stood and raised his glass to Brina, who turned the worst year of her life into the foundation for the best years ahead. And to announce some news: Innovate Tech is going public. We're filing for our IPO next quarter. The room erupted in congratulations and questions. David explained the timeline, the projected valuation, what it meant for early employees. As a VP with significant stock options, my shares would be worth over $1 million once the company went public. I had gone from sleeping on a couch to millionaire in 18 months, not through luck or inheritance or winning the lottery, through resilience, skill, hard work, and the support of people who genuinely cared about my success. Later that night, after everyone had left except Grace, We stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. She took my hand, and I felt her nervousness before she spoke. Brina, I know we've only been together for 6 months, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're my best friend, my partner, my home. Will you marry me? She pulled out a simple silver ring, elegant and perfect. I started crying immediately, nodding before I could even form words. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. We held each other on that balcony, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete, uncomplicated joy. No strings attached, no demands hidden underneath, no wondering when the other shoe would drop. Just pure happiness with someone who chose me every single day. That night I sat down to write in my journal, something Dr. Klein had encouraged me to do regularly. I wanted to capture everything I had learned, everything this journey had taught me. I wrote for over an hour, and when I finished, I read it back to myself. Family is not an obligation you're born into. It's a gift you choose to give and receive. Real family shows up when you have nothing to offer but your broken heart and tired soul. Real family doesn't abandon you in darkness and return in your light. They are the ones who bring candles to your darkness. I spent 32 years believing I owed my blood relatives everything because we shared DNA. I was wrong. I owed myself everything. I owed myself protection, dignity, boundaries, and love. The people who sit at my table now earned their place through loyalty, kindness, and showing up consistently. Not once, not when it was convenient. Always. That's family. The rest are just people who share my last name, and I've learned that's okay. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm, especially when they're the ones who lit the match. Success isn't about proving something to people who hurt you. It's about building a life so full of genuine love and purpose that their absence becomes irrelevant. I didn't win by destroying my family. I won by saving myself and building something better. That's the only revenge worth having. A life so beautiful that those who abandoned you become footnotes in your story instead of chapters. I've learned that forgiveness isn't required for healing. You don't have to reconcile with people who harmed you in order to move forward. You don't have to maintain relationships that cost you your peace, your health, or your sanity. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for them, is to let them go and wish them well from a distance. I've learned that chosen family is real family. The people who show up, who believe you, who support you without expecting anything in return, who celebrate your successes and mourn your failures alongside you. Those are your people. Biology is just biology. Love is action, and family is earned. I've learned that second chances exist, but usually not from the people who hurt you the first time. Second chances come from new people, better people, people who see your value from the beginning. Don't waste your energy trying to convince someone to value you. Save that energy for people who already do. Most importantly, I've learned that I am enough. Not because of my job title or my salary or my accomplishments, though those are wonderful. I'm enough because I'm here, I survived, I rebuilt, and I refused to let betrayal make me bitter. I chose healing over revenge, boundaries over bitterness, and building over burning bridges. That's the person I want to be. That's the person I am now. I closed the journal and sat for a moment in the quiet of my home. Our home, mine, and Grace's. A home I had built with my own money, filled with furniture I had chosen, decorated with photos of people who actually loved me. A home where I felt safe, valued, wanted. 6 months later, I received one final piece of mail from my past. A wedding invitation, formal and impersonal, printed on expensive cardstock. Courtney was getting married again, to someone new. The invitation was addressed only to me, no +1 included, no personal note, just a printed card with the date and venue information in Portland, Oregon. I held the invitation for a long moment, thinking about the person I used to be, the person who would have felt obligated to go, who would have tried to mend things, who would have set herself on fire to keep others warm. That person was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, more at peace. I walked to the kitchen and dropped the invitation into the recycling bin without opening the RSVP card. I had plans that weekend anyway. Grace's family, her real family, the parents and siblings who had welcomed her back with open arms after years of estrangement, were coming to visit. They had embraced me as one of their own, asked about my work, celebrated my engagement to their daughter, treated me with the warmth and acceptance I had always craved from my own family. That was real family. That was what love looked like. My phone buzzed with a text from one of my mentees, a young woman named Sarah who I had been working with for 3 months. She had been wrongfully terminated from her job and was struggling to rebuild her career and confidence. The text read, "I got the job. The director position at the marketing firm. They said my references were glowing and they were impressed by my resilience. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Thank you for showing me that second chances exist. You changed my life." I smiled, feeling warmth spread through my chest. This was my life now, helping other people climb out of the same dark places I had been, using my experience to light the way for others, building a legacy of support and second chances instead of bitterness and revenge. I texted back, "You did this yourself. I just reminded you of what you already had inside you. I'm so proud of you. Celebrate tonight. You've earned it." Grace came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and resting her chin on my shoulder. "That's Sarah. Yeah, she got the job. You're amazing, you know that? The way you pour into other people. The way you turn your pain into purpose. I'm so lucky I found you." I turned in her arms and kissed her. "I'm the lucky one." That evening, we prepared dinner for Grace's family. Her mother helped me chop vegetables while telling stories about Grace as a child. Her father and brother set the table and argued good-naturedly about football. Grace's sister showed me photos of her new baby, my future niece. The house was full of laughter, warmth, the comfortable chaos of people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. This was what I had been looking for my entire life. This sense of belonging, of being valued, of being enough exactly as I was. I had found it, but not where I expected. The betrayal, the homelessness, the despair, the second chance, the hard work, the healing, the boundaries I set, the bridges I burned, the new foundation I built. I thought about the woman I was a year and a half ago, broken and defeated, convinced her life was over. If I could go back and tell her anything, I would say this: it gets better. Not because the people who hurt you change or apologize or suddenly see your value, but because you change. You learn to value yourself. You learn to set boundaries. You learn to build a life with people who deserve to be in it. You learn that revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about building a life so good, so full, so peaceful, that their absence becomes a blessing instead of a wound. I stood at my kitchen sink, looking out at the view of Puget Sound, and I realized something profound. I had checked my mailbox one last time when I received Courtney's wedding invitation, and I had found exactly what I needed. Not an invitation back into a family that never valued me, but confirmation that I had made the right choice in leaving them behind. They sent me an invitation. I sent myself permission to be free. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift I could ever receive. The permission to choose myself, to protect my peace, to build a life worth living with people who made that life better instead of harder. I had won, not by destroying my family, but by saving myself. Not by proving my worth to people who refused to see it, but by building a community of people who celebrated it. Not by getting revenge, but by getting free. And freedom, I learned, is the sweetest victory of all. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who took advantage of you? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this with anyone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself, that second chances exist, and that the family you build can be even stronger than the family you were born into. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you comfort, strength, or maybe just the reminder that you're not alone in whatever you're facing. Remember, you are enough, exactly as you are, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who see that. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.